Starting a new MMO today. Unfortunately, the classes are gender locked, so that's annoying. I'm going to be playing an Elementalist. I almost never pick classes like Elementalists in video games, but this one has summoning abilities, and I love summoning abilities. I went ahead and customized my character here. I spent like, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes on this. This is my customized character. You can preview all the different outfits or whatever. There's only 2 male classes in this entire game, and like 3 female classes, I think. The character creator's not too bare bones. You got some presets up here. Hair, this is how you pick the hair. They got an okay amount, like 11 hairstyles. These faces, I think, are presets because you can customize here, basically. These slider-based creators sometimes look distorted when you go a little too far in one direction, so this is the most in-depth, okay, that's a lie, but this is one of the neatest games I've seen for customizing your ears as an elf or whatever she's supposed to be. I have it on -4. This is what it's like by default on 0, and it can get even more extreme going to 10, but then we go down here, you see how much it changes. This is what I had it set at, and this is as far as it can go. You can make your character look like a fucking drow, you know? You can make your elf look like a drow, or like a fucking holier-than-thou high elf, or some kind of like in-between like I'm going for right here with the -4. Skin tone, yada yada, they have all these things for customizing colors. The color customization isn't as good. So there's only 2 male classes, the Berserker, which you can see the quote-unquote stats of here. Literally what you'd expect from a Berserker. Big areas, sweeping attacks, basically Trindamere's spin to win. Very survivable, is not really what I would expect from a Berserker. In fact, I would expect mobility, not survivability. Then you have the Gunslinger, which is super squishy. It's funny, he's a gunslinger. He's displayed with a sword. Pretty average DPS, it looks like. This guy...
Don't get in my way.
This guy's funny. He's apparently like the easiest class to play, according to this. Yeah.
For honor. And
then you got the Spell Sword, which is more of a stereotypical mage. As you see, there are Korean physics to this game. So that's something Matt9 would love. The stats almost make this look super OP. This is actually apparently a dark elf, but the ears are pointing up. This is like I think this is your standard wizard, basically. Oh no, this is literally a spell sword. So this would be Matt9's class here, not just for the aesthetics. This would be Matt9's class just because he loves spell swords. So you're using magic while wielding melee weapon. Then we have the Ranger, which is what I was gonna go with this class, but I decided not to. The stats are weird. Really weird. Very high single attack, very high mobility. It's not what you think of when you think Ranger. You're not supposed to be at a distance with a bow. You're supposed to be jumping in and out between melee and ranged combat with daggers and your bow, kind of like Neverwinter. So this is kind of like a Ranger there. You jump in with your melee and you jump back out and you use some bow attacks and you jump back in. And that seems to be how the Ranger plays. And then the Elementalist, your standard wizard that has summoning though. And that's why I'm picking the Elementalist, is because I don't like the jump in, jump out gameplay of the Ranger. I like bows, but I don't like jumping in and out. I don't like wizards, but I love summoning. I love summoning. And just to show you what it looks like when you get into a character creator. So here's how it starts. As you see, I didn't change a crazy amount from the default. But I did change stuff just to show you. Like I did this at -10, which determines how big or thin the face is. I know I put this down to -4. I put this to -4. You can see what this affects. I did a couple of other things here, like eye size I put up, eye shape I put up. I did a couple things like this, but as you see, I didn't change a crazy amount. I of course changed the skin tone to something like down here. I think I kept this hairstyle actually. There's only 2 servers, as you can see, an EU and a US server, both of which have very low populations. I mean, that's to be expected. Every place this releases, it lasts like 2 years, maybe 3 before it dies. It released in like Korea, died. Released in China, died. Released in Russia, died. Now it's here, it's already dead. But we can still have some good fun with it. Let's start up the game and yeah, start the tutorial. And let's see how this goes. Wow, what kind of FPS is this cutscene rendered at?
The Grove of Life, north of
loud.
the Forest of Inar.
The subtitles don't match what he's saying. That volume was super loud. The frame rate was really choppy. I think that's just the animation frame rate, but... Ooh, this is loud. Oh, because the fucking volume went back up. I see. Feels only a little floaty. I'm curious how this performs frame rate wise, considering this game's over a decade old now. We gotta figure out the audio settings in-game, because it's gonna keep replacing my sound effects outside of the game. Alright, so 8%, 8%. Yeah, the character feels a little floaty. Like we're kind of based on a certain point, and the character itself is not rooted to that point. I'm gonna leave my little frame counter running, which I think you can see. Yeah, you can see it. Which honestly, it might run better in full screen given how old it is. So I just wanted to test out like the difference between the frame rate, and it feels like it's running smoother in full screen. I'm just gonna swap back and forth to see. I don't know, it feels a little smoother to me like this, so I'm gonna record it like this for now. Well, for a game from 2009, I'm surprised even in all of this, it's maintaining over 60 FPS. That's pretty impressive. And this time, 60 FPS was not normal yet, especially not for an MMO. Yeah, okay, so this game runs so much smoother in full screen, I'll just say that much. So let's get rid of this frame counter. My dodge doesn't dodge very far. There's so much screen shake right now. Oh my god! So far, the game feels very technically janky, but it's running. Resurrection penalty. Durability of the equipped items will decrease by 10%. You can resurrect for free 3 times a day, and the count will be reset the next day. The free resurrection count is not accumulative. So I guess if you die 3 times during a mission in a single day, then you have to start the mission over? I guess that's what that means? That's like the best case scenario of what that means. Okay, cool. What's up, tall ass woman? What the f? Or am I just really short? Oh, no colliders. This dialogue already gives me, Black Desert vibes. Okay, so that's what I look like by default. And this stuff is just some cool premium outfit kind of shit. I look a lot cooler now anyway. That's neat. I wonder if this stuff changes though. Like, I wonder if your appearance changes with new gear. This reminds me of just before Terra released, you know? When Pop-In, when they hadn't developed like soft Pop-In yet, so everything pops in immediately, you see it? Instead of like growing in. You see the grow in Pop-In a lot more now. I remember when that was new too, and it looked way worse than this kind of Pop-In. Man, I'm getting so much nostalgia from 10 years ago, it's crazy. Oh man, the graphical style of this is so nostalgic. Wait a minute, why does her underwear show when I run? What the fuck, Korea? Alright, so let's disable this. And let's see if the appearance changes. It doesn't change! Oh, look at that fucking smoke flicker. Everything's a quest. Go here to here, you completed a quest. Alright, now take a quest in order to get a quest, in order to go over there to complete the quest, to take a quest, to tell you about the new quest that we want you to take, to actually do your objective. That's what it feels like. This game is so fancy with its particles that being zoomed in all the way is kind of difficult. With these things respawning, I feel like this is supposed to be like a multiplayer area, but I haven't seen any players, so I'm not sure. I don't know if you can see any players you're not in a party with in this game. I just noticed I can't jump. There's no jump button. That's sad. I'm gonna get a horse. He's gonna give me a horse. That's a lot of hotkeys just to get a horse. So I hit I use the horse. I hit Y, and I register the horse. Nay! Nay, I say! Nay! Okay. Hey! Strategy mode. It's like a whole nother game now. Yeah, I guess like appearance, maybe the only way to actually change your appearance, and the gear might not change your appearance. Kinda like Soul Worker, I guess. Which is highly unfortunate. I guess it's a way to be lazy and not have to do as much work. But still. Disassemble items. Wait, am I supposed to disassemble gear instead of sell it? Is this one of those games? It probably is one of those games. I'm just gonna assume so, considering these selling prices are literally dog shit garbage. I'm just gonna disassemble all this crap. Diamond shop? Is this the premium store? Oh yeah, this is the premium store. Oh, here's your... I can't see myself past the mailbox. Oh god. Here's your appearance here. Yeah, here's your appearance. Yep, this is where you get new outfits. And I guess you need a premium currency for this. Diamonds. Oh god, Steam overlay. What are you doing? Bye. Oh, you're funny. You're funny. There's a lot of talking in this game. Not like dialogue, but like a lot of dialogue screens before you get to whatever quest you're doing. If I found the camp instead of me... Oh shit, your character actually shows the rain on it. Look at that. It gets like all slick, I guess. It gets very slick. So bright. Oh god, how bad does this look if I turn HDR on? Actually, HDR was already on. So it switched HDR to being back on. That's exactly what I thought happened too. I'm telling you, man, the game does not remember your settings. It doesn't. Some of them like this are just broken. Oh my god, is that another player?
Until we meet again.
That's the first other player I've seen this entire time. I have not seen another player until this instant. Holy shit, so these areas are actual open areas where you can see other players. Woo, that's how you know how dead this is, bro. The fact that I'm just now seeing another player. Yeah, you have some premium shit here. You have some premium shit, just like me. Yours looks like it's probably more premium. Damn, dude, there's other players. There's actually others playing this game. I have not seen that until now. So, you earn barracks XP by playing the game, which is like free XP in like World of Warships, basically. And then you can use your money and spend your barracks XP to basically forcibly train units to higher levels. I see.
We couldn't have come this far without you, Captain.
Oh god, he just got so much taller. He turned into a fucking giant. Attack! This is a lot. Look at how many troops there are. Holy shit. Under like heavy fire, bro. Holy shit. Look at all the death up here already, bro. Does my trebuchet move? Oh my god, my trebuchet moves. It's not letting me control myself. This is like strictly strategy right now. I think that's enough footage to give you an idea of what this game is about. Now, do note, I did play this game for about 17, almost 20 hours so far before making this, and I only highlighted the very first couple hours. So I'm going to tell you some of the pros and the cons of things that I saw in this video here and that I saw in my time with the game after this point. Let's start with the pros. The first pro is I'm going to say this game has a very strong story introduction. Like, as you might have seen little glimpses of, there's a lot of cutscenes, there's a lot of voice acting, at least at the start. The graphics of the cutscene tend to be pretty well focused on, like, you can tell they polished this part of the game, which is so important because first impressions are everything. Not to say that this quality lasts later in the game, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but the start is good, and your first impressions, if you can get past the jankiness of the controls, which we'll get into again later, is good. Pro number 2 will include the character creator, because you gotta admit, this game released in 2013, 2014 in Korea. It's a little behind its time in many areas, but in terms of character creator, while it doesn't compete at all with something like Black Desert's character creator, it still competes with a lot of the trash tier MMOs that released in the first half of the last decade. You can't make a character that looks too fucked up, but you can customize and tune the presets to look maybe just about how you want them to be. It's decent, and that's more I can say for most MMO character creators, so I'd call that a pro. The next pro is going to be the unique strategy gameplay of the game, and really this is the biggest pro that the game has. There's really not much of any MMOs, at least not MMOs styled like this, that have strategy gameplay quite the way that this game has. The battles can be massive. You can have up to 8 troops, apparently, in any one battle for any one player. Or the most I've ever seen when looking through other people playing the game, and my experience in the game so far, is having about 3 units and then your own hero character. The game allows you to go into like an RTS almost, or real-time tactics kind of mode, where you can control your units and use their abilities, give them very specific orders, whereas your hero character will go into like a block mode the entire time. Or you can go down and play as your hero while giving generic orders to your units like attack mode, defend mode, support me, or even putting their skills to little hot bars or hotkeys basically that let you use them kind of on the fly, which can be a little harder to control. And this game doesn't have like a real-time pause or anything, so you know, time is everything. And this trails into my next pro, which would be the combat in the game is just fun. Whether playing as your hero or controlling your army in the real-time tactics mode, it is a fun game. And the combat is unlike anything else you'll experience in any other MMORPG that you can try out there. From what I've seen, and I've never played the past 2 Kingdom Under Fire games, it does play out similarly to them, but not quite. And those revisiting the series coming into this game may find themselves at home. It may take those that especially are not used to strategy elements a moment to get a hang over the game. I've played with MMO players that have played plenty of MMOs, and I am unique in that I've also played loads of strategy games, but my friends who have only played MMOs definitely find the game very weird and intimidating to get into because of these strategy elements. So it's a weird niche that they're playing into here. My final major pro for this game is probably going to be the attention to detail in the graphics. And while the graphics aren't the most impressive thing, and I'll talk about my gripes with them later on, the game has attention to detail at the very least. Especially as I showed, just as one example, in this video, the attention to detail with rain. So not only does your skin visibly become slick with the water that's running down it, but your clothes also become damp and they look visibly heavy. You can see the water on them and how it affects them. And while today that might not be the newest or most impressive feature ever made for like graphically speaking or animation wise, you gotta remember when this game came out and when it was being produced. When this game came out, it was still before The Witcher 3, it was just after Watch Dogs, where that kind of thing was still newer, and we're talking AAA titles, and we're talking an MMO in this instance. This is an indie MMO. So just the attention to detail there it's really nice in my opinion. And now let's get into the cons. Let's start where we left off with the graphics. The graphics, while they look really, really good for something that was, developed in 2009, and you might like to think about it at that standpoint, you gotta remember with all the delays this game had, it only first released in Korea in 2014. And if you compare this game graphically to other MMOs or other video games in general that were releasing in 2014, remember, this is 1 year before The Witcher 3. This is 1 year after some other big things, but just compared to its competition, while it competes really, really well graphically with things that released around 2010, 2011, even 2012, when you start getting into 2014, this game graphically doesn't exactly hold up. It has a lot of the issues like pop-in and hard pop-in especially that we dealt with games like Terra, earlier on in the decade when slow pop-in, like where it grows in, was still new and just becoming a thing. Not to mention some of the graphical settings are just weird. When you stand still, motion blur turns on whether it's on or off. HDR always finds a way to turn back on whether you turn it off or not, or leave it on. And I have some qualms with HDR, which I'll get into in a moment, but also there's some graphical glitches, like especially in certain areas, if I ever look in a certain direction. This happens very commonly. I didn't highlight it because I really would have had to repeat it quite a lot. the shadows suddenly stop rendering on a lot of objects. Like building shadows will just disappear unless you turn your camera just a little bit and they pop in. And this can be really jarring when you're running away from an NPC and all of a sudden the game becomes much brighter and all the shadows disappear and everything feels a lot more flat. You're like, whoa, what happened? So you go to turn back around and instantly, upon moving your camera, the shadows just pop back in. And the reason I'm putting so much emphasis on this one glitch is because it happens on every map at some point, and you will notice it at least once every like 20 minutes of gameplay, at least once, if it doesn't happen more, and it usually happens more. It's pretty jarring, and it may just be hardware related. I don't know how well optimized this game is. There's an overall janky feeling to the technicality of the game. It doesn't even save the volume that you set in the volume mixer. And that's a big deal to me because I set my audio for games in the volume mixer. I don't really do it in-game. I've never done it that way. This is one of the only 2 games in my entire life where I've actually had to set it in-game, and it's kind of jarring. The next con is going to be after the strong story introduction. The voice acting, the story quality, the amount of cutscenes, just everything production-wise takes a giant dip, basically. And I guess the point of it may be to open up the world more, but by opening up the world more, they sacrificed what was really a very, well, not bad story experience. And they don't necessarily do this, to open it up to the MMO features of the game. Because going into my next con here, the dead player base, for example, and I'll get into that in a moment, the multiplayer options in this game are actually really lacking. It's not too soon, really, after you get out of the 4 to 5 hour story introduction of the game, where you finally, 6-7 hours in, I don't even know, get your first ever mission that you can play with another player. And while you could be doing potentially, I don't actually know, the open MMO areas of the game with a friend, there's almost no point to actually doing this because unless I'm missing something, enemies die really easily and they don't really pose a threat to you. You can gain almost nothing from having another person in your party. By the time one of you completes a quest, the other one's already taken the quest. It takes 5 seconds really to complete any quest the moment you arrive in a quest area. Which means the only place where players would ever help you would be like the end game or some of the harder strategy missions, or just strategy missions in general, which you don't need because most of them are recommended for one player. So they're balanced for one player. Throwing in more players just, I guess, makes it even easier. But again, with the exception of the end of arc story missions, which only come up once every 6 hours of gameplay, everything is completable solo. And in fact, you would never notice that you were allowed to add players if not for the lobby some of these missions have. At the end of the day, most of the missions in this game are solo only, is one important thing to keep in mind. Not that you'll necessarily notice it, because let me just make this very clear, this player base is dead. In the West, this game, I believe, is a Steam exclusive, and if we check Steam charts, you can see there's only a peak of 30 players on every day, and that is split between the US and EU servers, or server, I should say, since each region only has one. There's still 12 channels for each area, but you're not likely to need them. In Channel 0, in the biggest city in the entire game, seeing players was a rarity. You barely see anyone. Finding someone to do a mission with is near impossible. I saw people queuing up for these endgame missions that requires 8 or more players, and I only ever saw them get 3 players. When I was trying to get into my end of arc story missions, which recommends 4 players, or you would have to get to the end of the game to be able to solo them, apparently, I could only ever get one person at a time into my party to do them, and these parties weren't formed instantly. I had to form the party, search for matchmaking, basically, and wait a good 15 minutes of doing other quests, MMO like style quests instead of the strategy quests, just to have one level 30 show up and essentially carry me through. Nobody else seemed to be doing the leveling process. Only level 30s that see a younger player needing help ever really pitched in. Therefore, I also really have nothing to say about the community because I can't rate it. It's dead. There's like nobody there. I've personally met 2 players to do quests with in my almost 20 hours of playing with. In total combined, I spent probably 20 minutes of that 20 hours with another player. Some other cons I have is that every character, no matter which one you pick, feels melee. Whether you're a gunslinger or a berserker or a elementalist, spell sword, or the ranger class, doesn't matter. Your attacks are short range and you are supposed to be essentially in the forefront. The only truly ranged character this game has isn't one that you play. It's the like wizard that you can get in your army, and that's just because they don't fight. They don't actually fight in combat. They just cast spells from a distance. The player characters, none of them are truly ranged, even if they're using a bow. Your bow will go like 5 yards in front of you tops. Your spells will go in front of you 3 yards tops. You are forced into melee no matter what class you pick. And it's kind of annoying. I mean, the gameplay is still fun, don't get me wrong, but I didn't expect that I was going to be forced into playing a melee class when I saw a bunch of options that weren't melee. Maybe if you played the past 2 games in the series, you'd be used to this. I don't know how those play, but I wasn't expecting this. I've never seen this kind of limitation in an MMO or an RPG in my entire life. Remember that strong story introduction I mentioned, by the way? I just want to point out that 4 to 5 hour experience, that's the tutorial of the game. That's a long tutorial of the game, and in fact, the tutorial goes on even after that. It follows you in piecemeal bites, and I'm around level 20 about right now, and I can say that this tutorial it's lacking. It goes really strong in trying to teach you how to use some of the different unit types, some of them, not all, but it goes too strong in those areas, and it leaves out teaching you really important things like the crafting system, for example. There's a lot of really essential things that I had to teach myself that the game just didn't. Like, what is AP? To this day, I don't even know what AP stands for. I'm assuming action points, but there's no help page that answers some of these questions, like what AP is, what it does, if there's other ways to replenish it other than paying money. The tutorial itself, while being very long and very in-depth in some areas, is severely lacking overall in terms of where it needs to be in-depth, and that is in the basics of everything, rather than going too in-depth in one direction. Another thing that really gets in the way of learning the game or getting into the game is the fact that this game cannot pick a theme or genre. The strategy gameplay is not a majority of the game. The MMO quest hub style action-based gameplay is not a majority of the game. This is about half and half what I've seen so far. You get 4 hours of one, 4 hours of the other. Another 4 hours of one, another 4 hours of the other. And that is one of my biggest complaints, is that it doesn't pick. It just keeps switching back and forth, and this isn't done seamlessly. You don't just do both, you know? It's because you switch every 4 hours. I'm not kidding. It's very noticeable that you just switch and stop doing one of them. You feel jarred and like you're suddenly into a different game, and every time you get into the other style of gameplay, it almost feels bad because you've just gotten used to the other one. Maybe at the very end of the game, in the end game itself, the strategy gameplay might become dominant. I could see that happening. But I think one of the biggest weaknesses of this game is the fact that they can't seem to pick a genre. While neither genre is done particularly bad, I do feel the game could have been a lot better if they had picked one and stuck to it. And my opinion is they should have picked the strategy game, made it more in-depth, and just put all their focus into it. I think adding the quest hub based MMO style of gameplay really actually held them back. And I would say this constant genre switching probably turns a lot of people off from this game. Now, this is making it into the cons because it's not something good enough to make it into the pros. There isn't a lot of pay to win in this game, but there's some of it, and it's hidden. I can already imagine what this game was like in Korea, and I am so glad we did not get the Korean version in the West. I can see exactly where they probably monetized it in Korea, and I can tell you it would be horrible if they had done that in the West. When you're in the game, it looks pretty harmless. There's an earnable premium currency in-game, and the only way to get it supposedly is to earn it. You can tell that you could buy this in Korea, though. You can tell, because there's a lot of items that are actually limited to this currency that you can't really get any other way. Whereas literally every single cosmetic in the game is limited to either your quest progression or a premium currency that can only be purchased with real money, which means you'll spend the entire game looking basically the same unless you spend real money. And while you think, oh, well, I mean, that's fine, at least it's cosmetics only that you have to pay for, right? That's actually what we always pray for whenever they're porting a game from the East to the West. And look at that, we actually finally got it, right? Not exactly. You can get some of the things that you can only get for the earnable premium currency in a way that you may not expect, and I'll show you. On the Steam store page, you can get this game for $10, and while that sounds amazing, there's editions of the game, the Heroes Edition, the Emperor Edition, and the War God Edition. Every edition costs a different amount of money. The Hero package is $30. There's an Emperor package, which is $20. There's a War God package, which is $70. And if you want to get all of them and the game at once, you're going to have to shill out $100. But you might think, well, why do I want to do that? I mean, it's probably just stuff I don't need or stuff I can earn in game anyway. Why would I want to pay $100 or $30 or $50 or 70, whatever, when I could just buy the game for $10? Well, I'll tell you why, and the reason is you're going to have a very different game experience depending on how you choose to play this game. If you just go in with just the base edition of the game, you are going to be underleveled, you are not going to have enough gold for anything, and the troops you get are actually going to be weaker. The reason being is because there's certain things that can only be purchased for the earnable in-game currency, like these little premium things, this silver booster, the gold booster. The gold booster, by the way, which actually gives you stat bonuses. And you might think, well, I mean, you can earn it in-game, so it's not pay to win, right? Except you can buy it with real money. You can. If you purchased the most expensive edition of the game, you get a full year of silver and gold boosters. You get 5,000 cubics, the in-game premium currency. You get so many usable things like repairs, resurrection tickets, character slot expansions, change appearance vouchers, improvement stones to improve your units and their gear. You get special, rare troops that are more powerful than any of the other troops, XP to level those troops up, revival things to let you use them more without spending money or waiting until the next day to be able to use your troops again. This is just one of the packs. This is just one. There are 3 different packs and you can get all of them. The game wants you to spend the full $100 because the amount of benefit you'd get from getting all of them is invaluable. You would have over a year and a half of boosters if you spent $100, whereas earning them would take days. Earning that would take weeks of your time. Towards the end game, I'm sure it's easier, but this is the only way to purchase the in-game premium currency. This is the only way to just skip past days, weeks, maybe months of grinding to get some free heroic, like super rare troops, some experienced units, and a bunch of materials to rank them up, plus all the other in-game things. This is hidden from you. This is advertises, oh, this is fine, you can get this all in game anyway. And while you can get it all in game, this is the only way to buy it. You can still buy it, they just limited the way you can do it. The pay to win is still in the game, they just hid it. And for my final con of the game, the further and further you get in the game, especially if you did not buy one of these packages, you start to see how grindy it can get. At the start of the game, your first 8 hours, you're not going to feel it. It's that second 8 hours where you're going to see it start to kick in. And I can only imagine what I'm going to see in my next 8 hours. And that is that you start getting daily missions. You start getting repeatable missions. All these little things that encourage you to repeat them in order to get certain materials for ranking things up. Again, things you could skip by if you purchase these $100 worth of packages, or if you purchase them separately, it's like $130. You can't just grind all this stuff out through normal play because you're limited per day. You know, a certain mission will limit you to just once or twice or maybe 3 times every day. The dailies themselves limit you to like 3 or 5, depending, completions a day. This is a game that, especially as you get towards the end, wants you to log in, play a little bit, log out, come in the next day, and repeat. And the further you get into the game, the further you start to feel how much it wants you to do that, how much your troops are not good enough until you do that, and it just becomes the only real way to play the game. You either purchase what limited amount of pay to win you can, which is probably even more expensive now because you can't pick and choose like you probably could in Korea. All you can do is buy these $100 worth or $130 worth of premium content like packages, or spend so long of your time grinding, and you start to have to make the choice of, do you want to spend your time in this game grinding for all this stuff, or is $100 worth it to get a damn fair leap ahead? Like, if I went into all the bonuses you got from these packs, it's in depth, and you would realize just how shitty playing this game without them is once you realize what they have. And now, after all that and what may seem like an emphasis on the cons, what do I think about this game? Is it worth playing? What are my first impressions? Now, I have a little bit of a bias, I must make this very clear, because this game was purchased for me by my friend before it released, before the $10 package was available. Only the $30 package was the cheapest, so he got me that. This came with one of the premium packages, so I do have the silver booster, and I did get some stuff. That's how I realized the pay to win of this. That's how I realized how bad it must be without the pay to win elements being on your side. That's how I realized how having more of them would make my life so much easier and make this game so much more fun. And one way or another, I have to say, if you like the combat of this game, if you like the gameplay, even at the $10 package, I don't think there's anything wrong against playing this for the gameplay. If you want an MMO for an MMO, you're not going to get it here. This game is dead. The player base is dying. Everywhere it releases, it's the same story. It released in Korea. It lasted 3 years. They shut it down because the player base died. Released it in Russia the same year. It lasted 2 years. They shut it down because the player base died. The same year, they released it here. It's been 1 year. And the player base is already dead, and at this rate the game will be shutting down probably sooner rather than later. It's not going to last a whole nother year. I really don't see it lasting a whole nother year. So if you do want to play this game, you want to get into it quick. You will have the best experience if you purchase into the pay to win. You will have the worst experience if you don't. And they will be drastically different experiences. But in my opinion, they should both probably be fun, at least fun enough to justify $10. One way or another, I cannot say that I see how this game is not worth $10. And in fact, the game is cheaper on G2A. It's like $4 or less last I checked. So I'm going to leave a little link in the description if you guys want to pick this game up on G2A. It is a referral link. It's my referral link. You can go there on your own if you don't want to give me any benefit. But the game is not even $5 on G2A last I checked, so you could try this game for a premium low without any of the premium content. You get a Steam key for it, and then you can decide yourself. I'll still probably be streaming this game by the time that this video is released. If you want to check it out as I play it, my Twitch link is in the description below as well. And if you want to ask me any specific questions, leave them in the comment or go in the description again and join our community server where you can have one-on-one real-time interaction with me, the rest of the community. And if you play the game, hell, you could fucking join me in it. But I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was informative. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.